What's cracking, guys? Bruce Madsen here, your host of the show of Metro Scout Fantasy Football, and today we're going to be talking about rebuilding Dynasty fantasy football teams, something we all have to do, and really it's a fun thing. It's like Madden. You're rebuilding your team, you're getting young players, you're getting picks, you're taking this team, you're crushing it, starting all over, building from scratch, and maybe one of the funnest things to do in fantasy football other than winning a bunch of cash. But let's dig into this. Let's look at some ways to identify, rebuild, how to rebuild, and everything else. But the first thing you need to know, the first thing you need to identify is whether you like this league or not. If this is a league that doesn't trade, if this is a league that's not active, you hate everybody in this league, you wish they were dead, you hate this league, you don't want to be in it anymore, I would not suggest rebuilding a team in that. I would invest putting 2 to 3, 4, 5 more years into this team to rebuild, sinking in league dues and everything else. If you're hating the experience already when you're winning, if you hate it when you're winning, you're going to hate it when you're losing. So you might as well dip out, join a new league, let the commissioner know in that league that, hey, it's my time, I'm going to head out, no hard feelings, and that's it. I'm not saying destroy the team before you leave, but just do the right thing and just move on, because the lead sucks. They don't trade, and you're going to try and rebuild, and you're trying to get these transactions done to rebuild your team. It may take forever. It may not even get done. You destroy your team, you crush it, and now you can't get your deals done, or you can't even destroy your team because no one's fielding your offers, so you're stuck there, treading water, middle of the pack, not being able to do anything, not being able to give the appropriate value for your players or whatnot. So analyze your league. Is this possible to completely rebuild your dynasty team? Can I build it from scratch? How far do I need to do it? How can I trade in this league to be successful? Now, when it comes to your dynasty team, you need to identify whether you need to rebuild or not. You don't want to rebuild a team that's getting ready to win the championship. You don't want to lose out on that money. However, you do not want to be overzealous in your team, and your team just sucks, and you're just going to be middle of the pack, picking at the 106 every year, and you're barely making the playoffs, you're getting bounced out, or you're just missing. You don't want to be that guy. You either want to be at the top, or you want to be somewhere at the bottom trying to rebuild. So one thing you want to identify is whether if it's in season, you want to look at the standings, are you one of the top teams, or are you one of the bottom teams? You also want to look at like total points, all play, all that stuff. You just want to see how your team's performing before you make that decision. If it's off season, look at your team compared to redraft ADP, see whether you got a chance this year to make a run for it, and then you also kind of know. You got a good gauge. You know your roster. You've been working on this team for a bit. You know whether it's time or not. You have that feeling like, yeah, I'm going to win this league this year. This is the time. And then you also have this feeling like, man, I don't know if it's going to happen. I might make the playoffs. I know this team over here, they look pretty juicy. I don't know how I'm going to get past them. Maybe I can get luck. If you're thinking that way, you may want to rebuild. You may want to retool and fix some stuff on the fly. So just look at your team, see where you're at, and just be honest with yourself. If you're not a top 3 team in your league, you might as well retool, rebuild, fix that team up, because you don't want to be stuck in the middle. If you're stuck in the middle, then it's going to be really hard to go either way, because you're getting middle of the road draft picks, you're getting middle of the road capital, and then you're getting players that are aging, you're losing value, and next thing you know, you're just trying to tread water. So you might as well just start the rebuild, because the rebuild's going to be coming anyways. Strategy wise, for your rebuild, you got to know which players you want to deal. You got to know which players you want to get rid of. And usually those are aging veterans on your rosters. The veterans on your team that is producing, but not producing enough to get you in the playoffs, to get you winning some money. So you need to offload those guys. You need to look at the teams in your league, the managers in your league who are looking to get over that hump, to get into the playoffs, to win their league, so you can get rid of those 30-year-old wide receivers, so older running backs, so you can get younger players, draft picks, or whatever to build with. You also want to know which players you need to be getting rid of, so you need to be getting any player that's going to be losing value within the next 2 years. That's running backs around 26, 28 years old. Wide receivers are approaching 30. You see the age cliff coming, and you just want to sell out a year early before it's a year too late to maximize that value. That way you get something back in return to build off of. We also don't want productive veterans on our roster. One, they are losing its value on the trade market each day that goes by. Also, they're putting up fantasy points. They may not be putting up enough fantasy points for us to win, but they're also putting enough fantasy points up in the box score to push us up in the standings, causing us to lose draft capital. I'm not telling anybody to tank. However, the best way to lose games is to offload those players for draft capital, younger assets to build for the future. Technically, that's tanking. As long as you're submitting your best lineup that you have with the roster players you got, you should be good to go. But I want those young players. I want to build for the future. I want draft picks, and that's what I'm looking for. If I have older players going off randomly, getting me dubs, then that's not going to help me in my rebuild. It's going to put me back a little bit. 12 running back ones, 24 RB2s and RB1s, so there's only so many players that's going to produce, and we're just shooting our shots in the dark with these draft picks and young players. You got to realize this is a risky business here, rebuilding these teams. We're investing in a lot of young players, a lot of young assets here, draft picks. Not all these draft picks turn out. Once we get in the second, third, fourth round of a rookie drafts, the hit rates are not very good. We want to maximize our value of our teams for the long term. So in the trade market, these young players are good. However, if these guys ain't hitting, the risk could plummet our stock and kill our rebuild. But that's just something you want to do when you rebuild. That's just part of the game. That's part of Dynasty. You're building from these young assets. You're just trying to make this team better. But it's just something you have to know, though, before you dig into a full rebuild. Or how far do you want to rebuild? Do you want to build this team from scratch? Do you just want to retool it real quick? You got 3 veterans you just need to offload, build some picks. You're still good here. If I hit on these picks, I get a couple guys here, maybe I'm good to go. Or I just need to tear this team down, trade everybody away, get nothing but young players, year 1, year 2 players, rookies, and get some draft picks and just see what I can do going forward. That might take you a little longer. However, when we are doing a rebuild, we may want to shoot for around 2 to 3 years. Anything longer could get a little bit expensive. We're paying league dues every year for these teams, and also time. We're spending a lot of time trying to build this team, and that also has to be put into the investment, has to be baked in there. But it's however long you really want to do it, how long you want to endure it, and it's also depending on your league. Like I said before, some leagues don't trade as much. They don't trade often. It's going to be harder for you to rebuild. It's going to take you longer to acquire assets. If you're in a league that trades a lot, it could be like that. It could be in a matter of months. It could be just a year, but usually on average, you should be looking at somewhere between 2 to 3 years. Ideally, maybe sooner, because that would be great, right? You want to be winning championships. However, if it's going 5, 6, 7 years, man, that's not looking good. That doesn't feel good. You really want to identify your league before you jump into this. If this is a league that doesn't trade much, you either want to jump out of this league or you just want to strategize your rebuild in a way that it does not take forever and you do not have to rely as much on trades, and hopefully everything works out for you. But a 2 to 3 year rebuild is something you kind of want to shoot for because it gets you back in the hunt pretty quick. Hopefully it's sooner than that. You gotta love a Dynasty League that has a lot of trades, especially when you're trying to fix a team up, because all that volume, all those transactions just creates more opportunity. Whenever a trade happens in a league, one team is going to get better. Maybe both. Sometimes both. Sometimes it's none, but ideally, usually one of those teams get better. So if there's a lot of trading going on, you know there's a lot of volatility in the league, and that's something for you to capitalize on. Again, like I said earlier, 2 to 3 years for the rebuild. That's what we're shooting for. Ideally, we want a little bit sooner. We want a little bit quicker, but it's a rebuild. We got to have fun doing it. Most importantly, enjoy it. Rebuilding's fun. It's like playing Madden, but from a fantasy football perspective. But that's all I got for you today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. We are almost there. Every subscription matters. It fuels the channel. It fuels me to help you out with your fantasy teams and everything else. Again, I want to thank you, and I'll catch you next time.